This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Detroit is the greatest!
Straight up light you on fire for a Coney dog right now.
Darren McCarty comes back with Neiman in front of him. McCarty draws. McCarty in. McCarty scores! A goal! Darren McCarty!
Stafford takes, throws, end zone, Calvin, touchdown, Detroit Lions!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Motor City Sports Rant. I am Jason Jarvie. Follow me on Twitter at Jarvie the King. Sitting across from me, as always, John the Doc Macaroon. Aren't you going to play your drop?
No.
You're not even pressing. You're not even hovering over it, waiting for me to finish.
I'm excited that our paths crossed over the weekend. It was a very fun time. I had myself a great weekend, other than watching the sports in town, because unfortunately, bro, the only team that's worth note talking about is, the maize and blue. Michigan State,
no,
the
there's
Lions,
other
the Tigers, they're all
I'm excited
terrible.
to talk about the Pistons and the Red Wings.
Oh, are you really?
Bright futures.
Really? You and nobody else?
Hey, the Pistons their power rank came out, and they're looking at number 4 in the East right now. Monday
was media day, and I thought to myself when I started seeing the coverage, you know what? No one really talked about the Pistons the entire summer. And I know we're going to start talking about it later on down in the coming weeks, but yeah, man, the Pistons got a lot of work to do in terms of PR and marketing, because they're probably the only team that legitimately has a chance to make the postseason, but they got to do a lot more to get themselves out there, because right now the Detroit fan base is starving for a winning team, and that it might be the Detroit Pistons, and that's it. Because the Wings right now, I don't know if looking at their lineup right now, how things shake out, if the ceiling for them is making the postseason and one and done. So I think this is going to be a tough year for the Red Wing fan base, that's for sure. The very few that are out there.
And right there, but there's going to be way more time for us to talk about those. They're just about to get into their preseason. I think the Wings, they start theirs on Tuesday against Sidney Crosby and the Penguins.
Is it April yet?
Oh yeah, right. Is it? We're back at that. We're at that already. Oh man. But yeah, it was a very poor sports weekend in Detroit otherwise for the Amarillo and Blue. But yeah, Saturday night, our paths crossed, and I had no idea. How long? So my wife says, let's go. We're going to go out. We're going to go spend some, we're going to go out to a bar with some of our friends, just 2 friends. So I'm like, okay. I worked a 12-hour shift at the radio station, and I hadn't really eaten anything. And this is a bar where you can bring food in. So my mind was really on, what are we going to bring in for food? And she's like, oh, we'll just order some pizzas. And in my mind, I'm like, if we order pizzas, it's going to take like another 45 minutes. So all the way on the drive there, I'm just like, oh, gosh, the pizza, we're going to have to wait for pizza? I mean, they have free popcorn there, but I didn't really want to wait. So we finally get there. I see my friend's car. They're already there. So I'm like, okay, that's good news. And I walk in, and lo and behold, it was a surprise birthday party for me, which I had absolutely no idea. This was my first surprise party, and I give kudos to my wife and everybody for keeping it a secret, because I was completely flabbergasted.
It was nice. It was at, is it called Cunin Bar?
Cunin Brewery.
Cunin Brewery in Warren, Michigan. It was very nice. My first time going there, I had no idea that place was even there. Granted that you talked about it on this very podcast. I thought you were talking about the one that's located on Groesbeck. I don't know, it slipped my mind that there's one on Warren. There was a, St. Anne's Festival was going on right next door. So it was very festive. It was fun. And did you know the details about the planning beforehand? What went down?
I talked to my wife, and she said for about 2.5 weeks ago, she created a secret Facebook group and sent out all the feelers to everyone I knew to see if they'd be able to come. And it was a great collection of guys, a collection of friends and family. And I was completely blown away. And it was probably one of the best experiences that I've had.
And kudos to me because everyone was excited to yell out surprise, and I had the wherewithal to pull out my phone and be like, "Hey, someone needs to take a video of this." I probably should have took more, but I'm running low on the total gig space here on my iPhone. But I took a quick.
I took a Snapchat.
I did a Snapchat, 10-second, right at the moment when you walked in. So it was very cool, and you deserved it. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I wasn't sure if I was gonna going to a place where it has they make their own beer and stuff. So my wife laughed because the waitress comes over and I'm like, "Do you guys by chance have Guinness?"
Oh God!
And she looked at me like, "What?" I'm like, "You know what? Maybe if they have something off the cuff." I didn't know. She's like, "John, they make their own beer." I'm like, "Okay, good.
It's a brewery.
They make their own beer, so that means they have to exclude other beers. That one would sell, don't you think?"
No, they have like 18 different beers. They probably had something that's close to Guinness.
Yeah,
What did you have? You had probably like a porter or a stout, right?
No, I didn't know what to order, so I took a long time on the menu. So I just ordered the American Light, basically. A Bud Light.
Oh, boo, boo!
Well, it was your brother's fault because you know what he did was he ordered the sample of like 5, and he was like, "This isn't good. This isn't good." And he was like, he liked 3 of them. I think he disliked 2 of them. So I was a little bit finicky. I'm like, I don't know what I like, and there was such a wide range of percentages of alcohol from like 4%, 10%.
Yeah, if you don't know what to order the one with the highest alcohol content.
The highest?
Yes.
Why?
Because then you get the drunkest quickest. That's what you do. You go for the one with the 10.5%. You don't go for the American Light with that's like it was probably like 4%.
Yeah, it was perfect. It went down with the popcorn and the pizza.
So you got the Bud Light of beers.
I got the Bud Light of beers. Next time you'll take me and you'll kind of maybe we'll do a sampler and we can pick 5.
You really should do the sampler. It's I highly suggest I'll promote them again. Kunin is a great brewery, and for anybody who likes craft beers, it's a place to go. And I would suggest the Drippa. They're definitely known for that one. That's one of their best. I had the Drippa. I had the Sizen, which was a strong flavored beer. I couldn't drink too much of that. The last one I had an amber ale, and that was one that I could have drank all night because that one was a solid tasting beer. And I do have to apologize to everybody for me sounding like this. I do have a cold at the moment, unfortunately, but I'll power through it. I'm doing it all for you guys.
Yeah, man. It's going around, too. My wife is dealing with the same kind of thing. The kids
She might have got it from me.
Yeah, probably. No, she had a little bit beforehand, but she got it from the kids because it's going around. When you got kids, they start school and they pass the germs back and forth. But, hey, for me, it was a fun time. Then walked over to the St. Anne's Festival. My goodness.
You went to the Sausage Fest?
I went to the Sausage Fest. I was like, what a very interesting name for an event, for a church school, a Catholic school event. But, it was packed with the gambling, with the rides, and the drinking beer tent. My goodness. The people of Warren definitely came out to support that. It was packed on Saturday night.
Yeah, St. Anne's has been doing it forever. And I know we used to, before my wife worked at the school, we always used to pass it and kind of make jokes about the Sausage Fest. But it's a great place. I live over on the east side, and we generally go to St. Joan of Arc, and their festival is also it's gigantic, and it's gotten to the point where they've had to put up fences and put like curfews out for underage people because they would just have roving groups of teenagers hanging out, and they had some issues break out. And I was talking with my wife, and we were wondering maybe St. Anne's is onto something. If kids hear the Sausage Fest, they're not going to go and want to hang out at the Sausage Fest. So maybe St. Joan just needs to change it to something strange, like I don't know, the Pierogi Festival, and then they won't have that problem anymore.
Well, we had a good time. I'm glad you got a chance to enjoy your birthday celebration for the 3rd time, I hear. Yeah. But a little bit of backstory. Your wife tried to plan an event to go to the Foaling Warehouse. And it was something where my wife wanted to go do it because we've never done it before. But, things fell through a little bit. And then your wife decided, okay, let's do it here at Kunin because you're a big fan. And it was actually perfect for me because going down to Hamtramck, the only time we could have got lanes was 10 p.m. to midnight.
Yeah, and I was really, probably one of the biggest things is that all the schedules really work together because I have friends, they work on the weekends, 2 specifically that they're in they're bands that they play for weddings and all that kind of stuff. And the fact that they were able to make it, that you were able to make it out. I had a friend who lives out in Belleville who came up here. It was a great time, and I was just so thankful that everybody came out and wanted to celebrate with me.
Good stuff, bro. You're 30 years old, and, it's a fun time to get out, have a good time, have some beer, and definitely, if a place has self-serve popcorn, lightly salted, you got me there. I'm happy. I loved it, and maybe one day I will try the experience of signing up for the class or signing up for the program and making my own beer. 75 cases, hey, maybe I'll give it away to a lot of different people, but to make my own beer would be kind of fun. It seems like a nice excursion, nice, maybe something fun to do with the family and some bros. So
for sure, we're going to just have to go back there anyways to have more than just the light beer. And we'll probably take you to another place that has some nice meads. But let's start talking about some sports. My birthday, it's 2 weeks ago now. So the weekend was horrible for football and baseball. And I want to start talking about the Lions. The Spartans happened on Saturday, but we can get into that in a little while. The Lions were the biggest thing. And watching that game, I thought I had a little bit of hope going in on Sunday. I had it in my mind, at least fantasy-wise, that Jordy Nelson and Aaron Rodgers were just going to shred our defense, and they soundly did. But I thought that we'd at least be able to come out and compete. And in the first half, it was just
disaster, complete utter disaster.
And I tweeted it out. I said, okay, let's just pack it up. It's game over at 31-7 or 31-3. And then I think probably the worst thing that happened though is that we did actually come back in this game. Going 31-10 in the first half, I think if it would have just progressed and been a complete blowout,
we could have stopped watching and then gone about our day.
Well, not just that. I think if that happens and we just get blown out of Green Bay, we may be talking today about Jim Caldwell not having a job. But because the Packers essentially sat on their heels and the Lions were able to claw back in the game, now we're seeing, we were able to get back in this game, but we had no chance ever.
See, the organization probably knew it. And when you look at it and evaluate it, most people penciled this in as a loss. But the way that the Lions lost is something that we definitely are going to talk about. But a real organization would really be evaluating and putting Jim Caldwell on the hot seat because he continues to be very passive. Things happen, and when you look at what the Lions do and their game plan, obviously you knew that Aaron Rodgers was going to throw the ball all over the place. Did you dial up any blitzes? Did you maybe try to pressure him more than you did? And you say, well, could they even execute it if they dialed it up? You would like to see, at least try to ruffle the feathers of Aaron Rodgers. You didn't do it. And you come out there and you get smoked. I thought that was going to happen. I had predicted, I don't know why in my spirit, I felt like the Lions were going to get down early, but then come back. I thought they had enough to come back, but they got down too much. And the reason is quite simple. You only send 4 linebackers to the entire game. You're injured, and it was prone. Adam called it from the Doc and Jock podcast. You were ripe for an ass whooping, and most people aren't going to take stock in the fact that they came back because Green Bay, for whatever reason, it's really hard to coach a team to really throttle another team because naturally you let off a little bit, and Marvin Jones made some plays. Matthew Stafford was able to lead some touchdown drives, but in the end, when the game mattered, you took an ass whooping. It's but when you look at the schedule ahead, if the Lions can win in Chicago, you could be looking at maybe a 4-game winning streak, but that Philadelphia game now looks like a really, really tough game and one where, Jim Schwartz might be carried off the field again. But talking about the Lions game for me, when it ended, I've been noticing for me the last couple games, kind of emotionless. I'm kind of just watching going, well, you kind of knew they were going to lose. You kind of knew that Aaron Rodgers was not done. You knew that he was going to pick apart the secondary. I knew it. I called 21-10 at halftime. I didn't think they'd give up that many points, but what are you going to do? You're depleted. And so the first thing I'll ask you is, how much do the injuries give Jim Caldwell and the Lions a reprieve? You say, well, a lot of people I asked regarding what you think about Terrell Austin now as a defensive coordinator, most people were like, there's too many injuries. You got to give him a pass.
I don't think you give these guys what happened last year then? I get that Levy wasn't there, but you had a fully healthy Ziggy Ansah.
Last year.
You can't give these guys a pass. I get that not having Ansah, not having Levy, not having who else on the linebacker core?
DeAndre Levy's backup, Antoine Williams, I think was gone too.
Antoine Williams, he was a 7th round pick though. Anyways, you can't give these guys
Amir
a pass.
Abdullah, your starting running back.
Okay, then why they kept going Theo Riddick, and Theo Riddick was ineffective against the Green Bay Packers. you bring in Dwayne Washington. I mean, they probably didn't run the ball enough to really give themselves an accurate representation on how the running game would do against a good defense. You look at them though; they didn't have Clay Matthews, so that was one thing you didn't have. I think there was poor play calling all up and down the game, on offense, on defense. You said it, that they didn't even try to pressure Aaron Rodgers. It looked like he was literally out there playing against dummies. He was throwing the ball. It looked like, I honestly felt that he was laughing as he came up, as he threw like his 4th touchdown. Then he comes out the field, he's like, oh man, this is just too easy. And it's so disheartening. And when it was 31-3 at that point, I was emotionally checked out of the game. I could care less. I checked it to see what they were doing, and I was like, oh wow, they got it back to 31-24. Are they going to be able to do it? Probably not.
See, I hate the fact that I'm more serene now watching the Lions, but I know what's going down. I mean, when you look at it, I called it. I knew they were going to take an early, it was going to be challenging early to stay in that game. You have the emotion of Green Bay coming back to Lambeau Field, now their season opener. You had the excitement. You had a lot of talk, the national buzz regarding Aaron Rodgers. Is he done? Is the Green Bay offense, done? Is there a power struggle between him and head coach McCarthy? You had all that noise going on around them, and he just went out there and shut everybody up. Everyone kind of knew that, well, he's going to get healthy versus the Detroit Lions. They're going to look really, really good. But something that happened during the game that was really interesting, and I thought that we wouldn't learn new NFL rules watching the Lions, but I had never heard of until the fact that it was done before. I believe Randall Cobb did the same thing maybe a year or two ago. But did you know that if a guy standing out of bounds grabs the football, then it's considered out of bounds, and the receiving team gets the ball at the 40?
I had no idea.
I was shocked.
That is the dumbest rule ever. Aside from the catch rule, that is the dumbest rule ever.
Why is it that these new creative rules we learn about it watching a Lions game?
It's
I was
always
shocked.
on the Lions.
Isn't crazy?
The thing about that is, I know that Fox had their technical difficulties right at this moment, is I wanted to see Jim Caldwell in the face of the referee at that point and saying, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What just happened?
Yeah.
And I wanted to see him blow a gasket, because it just blew my mind.
Why would you blow a gasket? He followed the rules. That was a rule that I guess the Green Bay receiver understood. He's a Stanford grad, knew the rule, and it happened. It happened similarly to one of his teammates, and he knew it. He knew it. He knew it.
I get that it's a rule. I want to see it though, because I just believe that he's going with the flow, that he doesn't really care what's happening. And if he's not blowing up the ref, I want him to blow up at Sam Martin, because God damn it, Sam Martin, just kick the ball out of the end zone.
Yeah.
Just do that every single time. If you can't accurately, kick it to the goal line, so they have to return it, kick it out of the goddamn end zone.
But a new strategy that's kind of being used by New England is to kick it really high.
Yeah, but New England can actually
execute it. Yeah.
Sam Martin, he's so frustrating. Give me back Jason Hansen. Can we sign him again? Sam Martin, he has like one of the biggest legs I've ever seen, and he can make amazing kicks. But then he is also one of the worst kickers I've ever seen. And then he has this I don't know, it's something in him that he just has a brain fart, and I'm going to kick the ball 20 yards.
Well, some of the positives you could take away from the game was Marvin Jones really, really came on and was able to really solidify his relationship with Matthew Stafford.
Yeah,
they look like they got good
garbage
chemistry.
yards that Megatron always got. That was great for Marvin Jones. 8 targets, 6 receptions, 200 yards. That got us absolutely 0.
You feel like it's a wasted performance. Stafford had some great numbers, but unfortunately, again, on the road versus a decent team, the team as a whole collectively just wasn't able to perform and get the W.
It's a wasted performance because it makes the perception of the team that it was a lot closer than it really was, when really we're miles away from the Green Bay Packers at this time. And it makes Jim Caldwell look like, oh, he's not doing that bad of a job. We only lost by a touchdown. But in reality, we were down by 28. Jim Caldwell should not be the coach of this team right now.
I'm thinking that they're going to evaluate him throughout the course of the year. When they finish 7-9, 8-8, I do believe a change probably is going to be made. But what's more concerning for you right now? The fact that, Taylor Decker and Laken Tomlinson are really, really struggling on the offensive line, or the defense and the injuries, and the fact that really this kind of goes to the fact that the depth on the lines isn't where it needs to be, because if you suffer some major injuries like that, it looks like the guys that they're calling upon probably can't do the job as well. What's more concerning to you?
You got to be more concerned about the defense at this point, because even as bad as Decker and Tomlinson may be, you saw on Sunday that if he's as long as he's healthy and not getting the crap kicked out of him, Stafford does have his head on a swivel, and he has the ability to avoid pass rushers unless he gets completely blindsided by Julius Peppers again. So the defense has to be the biggest concern right now, because outside of Kerry Hyder, you have no good prospects on your defense. Darius Slay he's been slipping up. Tavon Wilson, Raphael Bush, not doing too much. Glover Quinn seems to not be making any plays, even though he got the interception the other week. I'm not seeing any plays being made by this defense.
And one point that you made, and that's why I agree with you, I think the defense is a little bit concerning, but we have to be worried about Laken Tomlinson and Taylor Decker, because their first-round picks that were allocated for those positions, they got to do a much better job, because they do need a running game. But despite the fact they were down, the Lions were within one possession. All you need to do is stop Aaron Rodgers on that third down play. And I'm like, okay, what are the odds that they're actually going to maybe pressure Aaron Rodgers, or maybe force him to make maybe a turnover, or maybe get the ball back with one more chance to go? And what happens? The plays run. Green Bay, sends their receivers out. The play breaks down a little bit. So what does Aaron Rodgers do? He's got a free lane to run and pick up. I think it was 3rd and 8 at the time.
Well,
and the game was over.
Caldwell probably thought it was going to be like a pass back and forth type thing, right?
See, and you're like, you know what? This is another situation in which the Lions had an opportunity. Despite whatever went on, the Lions right now, at this point in time in the season, and what you see, they're basically 1 to 2 key plays short of being a successful football team. They can whoop up on the Bears. They can whoop up on teams that are injured themselves, like the Colts. But you see that any team with a serious offense, or an ability to, run the football, or has a decent quarterback, they're going to have a hard time right now. It's going to be interesting to see when a guy like Ziggy Ansah comes back, because the Lions are keeping mum regarding all the injuries. We don't know if Levy's going to be back this year. We don't know, really what's going on with Ziggy Ansah. They're keeping it very tight-lipped, but I'm a little bit hopeful in that, okay, we're 1-2 right now, but we're playing the Chicago Bears, and right now their quarterback is Brian Hoyer, and I believe, did Langford, is the news that Langford is out for the year? Or
I haven't heard that, but if that is, yeah, the Bears, we should win this game. You should go into Chicago, come away with a win. You're 2-2. But I'm looking at the schedule going forward. We may not see another win until November.
Hit me with the schedule. What we got?
After the Bears, you get the Eagles at home.
That's going to be a tight game. Carson Wentz might be coming out party at Ford Field, right?
He's exceeded every expectation. This is a guy who I thought he was going to, I'm not even sure if he was going to, dress every single week. I thought he was going to be the 3rd string quarterback. Gets thrown in last minute, and the dude looks like the second coming of Big Ben Roethlisberger. He's just slinging the ball around. He's got the Eagles at 3-0. That's a game that I put it probably at a loss right now.
Really?
Yeah. And then after that, you get the LA Rams coming into town, which even with all their issues, they're 2-1 right now. They have a really, really good defense. If you any team with Aaron Donald on it, it's going to be a tough game.
So this is a very key game versus the Bears. Now, we've had success, I believe, now versus the Bears the last 2 seasons, where in the past it's been up and down, but Jay Cutler's been hurt. Brian Hoyer's leading that team, and a lot of people are really criticizing the Chicago Bears and the mess of football that they play. They played Dallas, I believe, and
Sunday night.
They were rolled. And you should be able to go on the road and really handle your business. But again, now any game with the Lions, you can't make assumptions. They actually have to go out there and execute. When you play the Bears, you just got to go out there, hit them in the mouth, probably force a couple turnovers, but you don't want to see Brian Hoyer give him time and let him pick you apart. Because
Brian Hoyer's not going to pick you apart. Slow down there. I'm the
Lions.
I am gloom and doom on this team, on the Lions, but Brian Hoyer is not going to pick apart this team. Alshon Jeffrey may have He may get like 2 touchdowns out of this game, but this team isn't going to pick apart the Detroit Lions.
And so, yeah, you believe that it's pretty much likely that the Lions offensively should be able to do a lot of different things. The offense is a very, very, strong unit right now, and they're playing very, very well. It's unfortunately, it's tough to judge the Green Bay game because they were down so much. And by that point, you could say that Stafford and everybody else was padding their stats. But I do believe versus a lesser competition like the Bears, we should be looking at if they execute the game plan, they should be doing okay. They should walk away from Soldier Field with a win.
Yeah, that's one game though. So you're 2-2, and going on what the team is right now and looking at all the teams that they're playing, I don't have a very good outlook. I'll just roll through it real quick. I think Eagles loss, Rams, I think it's a loss. Redskins, I think that's a loss. Texans, probably a loss. Vikings, loss. Jaguars, I think that's probably the next team you have a fighting chance against, and that's November 20th. Vikings again, loss. Saints, loss. Bears again, there's another win. So that's 2 more wins. Giants, loss. Cowboys, loss. Packers, loss. Mm-hmm. I just detailed a 4-12 season.
Oh, boy.
I thought this team was going to be at least 8-8, and now...
Jason, it was going to be a struggle to be 8-8 with everybody healthy.
Oh, man.
So that's why I feel like I'm emotionless, and that's why I feel like I'm kind of able to weather the storm, is that we pictured them to be 7-9, 8-8, maybe going 9-7, 10-6 if things fell their way. But now that you got key injuries to 3 of your guys, you go, well, you lower expectations because when have the Lions been known to just roll through guys? This isn't New England here. We're not going to, New England rolls through not only their backup, but the backup's backup, and they walk away with victories. The backup, Brissett got points. He was able to score, looked like he could do some things. This isn't a system.
I get it. And I think I made the same assumption, is that you needed a perfect season. You needed people to stay healthy. It hurts to talk it all through.
It does,
and to realize everything of what we have coming up. And I don't have high expectations. I think 8-8 at this point is the best that you're going to hope for.
I think I would be ecstatic to see 8 wins. I'm trying to see how long the Lions can stay in games because, when your defense isn't getting pressure on a quarterback, you're going to get beat in this league. If you can't run the football, do you think that the Lions and Jim Caldwell and the staff recognizes, like on a depth chart, who's really better than who? Do you really believe that it took them to watch Dwayne Washington on the field on Sunday to probably realize he should have been the number 1 over Theo Riddick? Because, or you get into the first quarter, you see Riddick's numbers running right into the line, no holes are opening up, that maybe you just a little bit sooner throw in Washington. I just feel like the Lions stick with their strategies similar to the Tigers. When they don't work, they don't maybe switch out of it fast enough. I thought going into the game, maybe switch it up a little bit. Maybe throw a curveball in, even if it's not the right decision. Theo Riddick, you could have maybe thought going into the game he might have struggled versus Green Bay. Throw in Dwayne Washington, see what he can do, and maybe you get an emerging star and you're able to maybe turn the tide and not get out to such a deficit, or you maybe keep up with Green Bay.
Yeah, I don't know why they didn't go sooner, because I get part of the reason. I get running it to keep the defense honest, so you're not just, rushing for and letting Matt Stafford try to throw it into double coverage. But Theo Riddick, you saw from the outset that they were just waiting for them to hand off the ball, and he couldn't juke every single player. So they were just getting to him in the backfield. It was reminiscent of Barry Sanders, watching him get tackled 5 yards behind the line, but he isn't good enough to then come back and deke people out and go gain a 20-yarder. And you saw immediately when Dwayne Washington gave the ball, even when he hit the pile, he could at least move it a couple yards. So instead of getting pushed back for a loss of 5, you're getting maybe 2 or 3 yards. Going forward, Dwayne Washington really should be the first and second down running back. If you want to put Riddick in, have a 2 running back system, put Riddick and Washington out there, I think you can make that work. But Riddick, I think we said this before, that he really isn't an every down back. He is more of your pass catching running back. He's the guy that you put in there on third down, or he was actually really productive when you put him in the slot as a receiver. He has experience doing that. So if they come out this next week against the Bears and start running Theo Riddick again out of I formation, I have no defense. I try to do everything I can to defend this Detroit Lions team. I cannot defend that.
Man. And the other salt in the wound for me was my fantasy team really underperformed. If I had set the lineup correctly, if I put in Stafford versus Green Bay, maybe just thinking that they would be down and he would pad his stats, he dropped 39 points, and I had Tavon Austin on the bench. So my opponent has 92, I got 46, and I have Drew Brees. So,
ouchies.
But that's a scenario where I'm not really bummed out because it had to go perfect. I would have had to sit. I would have had to have benched Diggs and put in Austin and bench Drew Brees and put in Stafford. It's very rare you go perfect instead of perfect lineup every week. So I'm poised to be 2-1, and barring a offensive output by Willie Snead, I'm up 15 in another league. So if he goes 100 in a touchdown, I might be 0-2 this week in fantasy. But I was, you know what? All I can say is my wife is ecstatic. She went off on Cousin Adam, and she dropped 140 on him.
Good stuff. Good to see Jock get busted in the face
again by both the Macaroons, because I beat him by 60. He's about to take another huge loss by the misses. And I know we talked a little bit about Todd Gurley. He went off, so she was
good. I'm glad she listened to me.
Yes, she wanted to relay the message that Gurley did good finally, and she's off.
She wants to give me all that crap for having a bad season last year. I just drafted your team. If you wanted to draft a better team, make it the draft.
And like you said, and I really believe it, sometimes it's all about luck because, you know, everybody was looking and going, what the hell happened to Kelvin Benjamin? You know, did he piss off Cam Newton because he got nothing? No touches?
Cam Newton sucked, though.
Yeah.
My wife had Cam Newton.
See?
She, in her matchup against my nephew, they're actually tied right now. Neither of them have any other players. They're both tied at 107. She's like, that's so dumb. What the hell?
Nothing worse than a fantasy tie, right?
And it was scary too because she had Des Bryant and Jason Witten last night, and like the first play we watch, and he goes down with the knee, and I'm like, oh my gosh. She's like, what? That's 2 plays in, the game just started. I'm like, oh, that's fantasy football for you.
Yes, sir. All right, let's take a quick timeout, regroup here, come back, and let's break down what the hell happened to Michigan State. They were punched in the mouth, and some news and notes a little bit regarding the sporting world and around the city of Detroit. Stay with us on the Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network. All right, everybody. Doc here for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. We added a brand new show titled The Justice Report. It airs and drops every Saturday, and Brandon Justice is the host. He is a wizard at Michigan recruiting. He's there each and every week at the Michigan games, and he's in the know. And if you want a great preview regarding Michigan athletics, what's going on with the football team, and all things regarding the University of Michigan, check out the Justice Report. It airs each and every Saturday. And for all news and notes regarding the Detroit Sports Podcast Network, please go to DetroitSportsPodcast.com. We're a network of Detroit Sports Podcasts with new shows released almost every single day. We greatly appreciate all the support, all the new subscribers on iTunes. We greatly appreciate it. Don't hesitate to give us a tweet at Detroit Podcast. I believe our Twitter page is one of the most interactive Twitter pages in the entire city of Detroit. So thank you again for your support. We greatly appreciate it. Follow us, tweet us, download, listen to all the shows, DetroitSportsPodcast.com.
Tell it what I'm feeling beyond. Hey, I'm beyond. All that.
Hey, little mama, would you like to be my sunshine? We touch my game, we gon' turn this to Columbine. Ice on my neck cost me 10 times 3. $30,000 for a new get flea. I just hit Rodeo and I spent like 10 G's. I just did a show and spent the check on my mama.
Motor City Sports Rant, Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
You know how I heard about this song?
How?
Eric Ebron. His Snapchat is utterly hilarious. If you don't follow Eric Ebron on Snapchat, on his off days or when he drives home from practicing, he'll jam some hip-hop music and he'll sing along. And I was like, what is this he's singing about? But Broccoli, huh? Good song.
Broccoli by Drum. Yeah, I feel like we should have let in with some funeral march music because that's what I felt like watching that Michigan State Spartan game on Saturday.
Was it a hangover or was it just lack of execution on all fronts? Because you had a big game victory versus Notre Dame. It took a lot out of you, but the victory versus Notre Dame now looks to be a little bit not as
It doesn't
impressive.
They
When
just
Duke
lost
goes
to
in,
Duke.
how embarrassing is that? It cost the defensive coordinator his job. I was
Dude,
watching.
have you seen that defensive coordinator, dude? He looks like a caveman.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like Vinny at the moment calling the dude a caveman, but the guy deserves to be fired. And yeah, that Notre Dame win definitely lost some luster. And I get that. I think it's a little bit of both. That you came into that big game, you pretty much gave it your all to try and win against Notre Dame, and you just fall flat on your face against this Wisconsin team that I think people really underestimated. And I don't get it. It absolutely made no sense. It's like they took their offense from the second half of that Notre Dame game and just said, let's just keep doing the same thing against Wisconsin, because why not? Let's not adapt to who we're playing. I mean, I'm not sure. Did they not look at any tape of what Wisconsin's going to do? It made absolutely no sense watching that game.
So you put this one squarely on the coaches and the philosophy?
No, I think you put that you put it on the coaches, but you also, there's got to be question marks again now about Tyler O'Connor. Everyone wants to put big importance on his wins against Ohio State and wins against Notre Dame. And now he comes in and just he pooped the bed. He going up against Wisconsin, every ball he threw, it looked like he was just throwing a home run ball, and he was overthrowing guys like by 10 yards. I thought he was Matt Stafford, but just a little bit worse, because he couldn't hit a guy. And it seemed like everyone he was throwing to was always in double coverage.
See, exactly. And then obviously he didn't see Donnie Corley wide open and he missed him. But it's a game where you go, ooh, Tyler O'Connor, and you look at his last couple games, he hasn't looked like the guy that you feel confident is the number one. And then you go, oh boy, if you have these question marks, there's no guarantee that you're going to go out and win out, because a lot of Michigan State fans are maybe thinking, well, we've done this before. We've lost a game and then gotten better as the season has progressed. But this is a different Michigan State team with a lot of different pieces and parts. And the obvious person that you look to is Tyler O'Connor. He's going to get the start. He's not going to be yanked right away, but you're going on the road versus Indiana. You got to go out there and show out and really play a solid brand of football. But in a football game, you got to look at the storyline. Despite the mess that Michigan State created in that first half, you're only down 13-6. You got the ball. You're driving. You're like, okay, this is good. You're establishing the run with the guy that you consider the team MVP in L.J. Scott. And all of a sudden, boom, he drops the football, forced fumble, and then, it's picked up by Wisconsin and ran back to the house for a massive touchdown. That's a momentum killer.
Definitely.
And that really turned the tide. You score and get the game to 13-13. I really believe Michigan State turns it around, and they're in it throughout the whole game. Maybe they don't win the game, but they're not getting housed. But once
good teams, though, are able to come back from that. I get that it sucks that you were driving, and yeah, I get it. It completely shifted the momentum to the Badger side. So that was the turning point. But a good team should be able to at least get a touchdown. We have talent at wide receiver. I don't get why we're only rolling out there with 2 wide receivers. You know that you're going to probably throw it just to Donnie Corley or throw an underneath route to RJ Shelton, and you're probably going to get him killed. So the offensive coordinator is just frustrating, and that guy really needs to be on the hot seat.
Dave Warner needs to be on the hot seat?
Why? Warner, it's a co-offensive coordinator too.
Mm-hmm.
I think they both need to be in the hot seat. I don't
disappointing all around.
Team was just and it really wasn't just the offense. It was that the defense could not get a stop, and that they always just seemed to find a hole in our defense, and they were just kept getting first downs, and when we needed a stop, we could not get a stop. It was one of the worst games that I've watched in the last couple of years for the Spartans. Well, I think that's actually a worse loss than Alabama, in the college football playoff.
Listen, I disagree. There's been a lot of games where you see that Michigan State might not come and play well. You've had some tough losses. You've had some blowout losses. Yeah, it's a loss that you would say at home in front of your fans is not one that you want to see. But those losses versus Alabama were in key situations, and their stakes were higher. So there is some positive to take away from this, in that all the goals that are available for Michigan State are still attainable. If they win out, if they go through and they defeat Michigan, who's going to come in probably ranked number 1, 2, top 4, no doubt, if they can continue to play well. And you hope that they as Spartan fans, you have to hope that Michigan defeats Wisconsin and they continue to come in at a high rank, because that gives the value if Michigan State can execute a victory and play well. It gives them a boost in their ratings, because right now they're around 16, 17 in the polls. They are not out of the top 25 yet. And Wisconsin is in the Big Ten West. So if you go out and you win, which is going to be very tough, but you got to win out, if you can regroup and really, really improve on the offense, and Tyler O'Connor really learns from this game and doesn't turtle, and he really takes away some positives from this, then you have a chance to go through, win out, and maybe you face Wisconsin again in the Big Ten title game. You have a chance to get a reprieve from what happened, a chance to get some revenge. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, you just made it infinitely.
You got to win out. No, yeah, but for me, Jason, I had them going 10-2, 9-3, no matter what. Anyway, I had losses to Notre Dame. I had a loss to Ohio State. So the big game is going to be versus Michigan, and I believe that each and every week you just have to keep getting better. But right now, the team that you got to pay attention to is Indiana. Because if you have another hangover and you get down on yourself, whether it be the emotional things that are going on right now outside the program, or if you get down on yourself for having a loss, Michigan State's teams have been known to regroup and play pretty well after losses. So I don't expect that. But if they don't play at their peak performance, if they make the mistakes, Wisconsin's a team that if you don't play your best, they're going to whoop you. They don't beat themselves. You got to go out there and beat Wisconsin. But if you don't play your best versus Indiana, then you're going to have a problem, and you're going to be on the verge of maybe a 6-7 win season. And that's what's tough, because, literally for me, I was mad that they got blown out, but I wasn't expecting them to get to a national title game, or I wasn't expecting them to get to the playoff. The majority of experts, when you look at it, Tyler O'Connor's first year starting had this year as a transitional year. I just want them to defeat Michigan, get better, and finish the year strong, get to a decent bowl game. But, going up against Michigan, Ohio State, and those likes, and it's going to be super tough to have a strong season.
But is it wrong to expect more of this team?
Jason, listen, it's not. It's not Alabama here.
I get it against Wisconsin or against Michigan and Ohio State, but I don't think it's wrong to expect.
What did you expect?
I expected them to at least beat Wisconsin. That's what I wanted. I wanted them to beat the teams, and I wanted the teams. There's really 3 teams that I marked on this schedule, and that was Notre Dame, that was Michigan and Ohio State, and those are your 3 games. You should not have lost to Wisconsin. Why wasn't there any game planning in halftime? Why wasn't there anything that changed? Maybe they did change something, and then after that fumble, they just basically turtled and they went home. Yeah, you're right. They really need to focus on Indiana. And if you want to bring me back in your good graces, Spartan team, Spartan dogs, you better go out and hammer Indiana. If that's a close game at all, then I would just chalk this season up. It's essentially almost already a failure, because you have to be perfect the rest of the way out if you want to have any chance making postseason or even making a New Year's Day bowl.
With Michigan State, you have to say, okay, Mark Dantonio has to take the reins, has to take the blame for this. And you say, well, okay, you had 2 weeks to prepare for Notre Dame. I don't know if the celebration for, Sadler, who passed away, might have taken some attention away from the team and focus. But you look at it and you go, okay, you put that one behind you. You got to move forward. You have to get better at some key areas. And you have to kind of, when you look at it, Michigan State has to be more creative offensively. They cannot just line up and run the ball, because, okay, now versus a team like Wisconsin, they punched you back in the mouth, and they were able to, score some points off of you and some mistakes you made. So a team like this, Michigan State has to find new creative ways of scoring running their offense. And like you said, Dave Warner should be on the hot seat, but no matter what, it all ends, it begins and ends with Mark Dantonio. He's got to approve all this, and if Dave Warner can't do the job, you got to step in there and figure out somebody else who can. Yeah,
and if you ask me what they need to do, they need to go to more of a spread offense, lining up in the single back formation, and with just 2 wide receivers out there. I think you need to give Tyler O'Connor as many options out there on the field to throw to, because clearly if the play is a pass to Donnie Corley, he is literally staring Donnie Corley down, and the defense, a good defense, is going to see that, and they're going to know, but let's just double cover that guy, or let's just watch where his eyes are, and he's not going to make his progressions down the road. So I think you need to run some sort of spread. give Tyler O'Connor, he has a big arm. Give him weapons to throw to. You have the players on your team. You have the Medeiros, you have RJ Shelton, you have Donnie Corley, you have some of those other receivers who I haven't seen play at all. I'm not sure if they're redshirting them, but you need to give him options to throw to. You can't just put 2 receivers out there and expect him to choose between one of those guys.
Now, I know this is going to sound blasphemous, but I'm a guy that just speaks freely and likes to express what's in my head. And so now I've seen Mark Dantonio take Michigan State from where they were to where they are now. Each and every year they've done well. He's run a decent program. You don't see too many significant violations that are tarnishing the program. But then you go to yourself, okay, when you play the elite, you get whooped by Alabama. Now you have a guy like Connor Cook who comes into your program after Kirk Cousins, Connor Cook. Who's the next guy up? You got Tyler O'Connor. You go, ooh, do you think he's as far along as he should be? Is this team really ready to take that next step and be more consistent? And then you go, well, 10 years is a long time at a program. And you go, well, okay, how far can Mark Dantonio take you? Is this the ceiling? Is that good enough to say, because, I'm a guy that goes, you had Nick Saban and he walked out the door and became Nick Saban of college football, not at Michigan State. Now, I give credit to Mark Dantonio. He took Michigan State to heights that I never thought I would see. But I'm not going to lie, the thought has crossed my mind now that a guy like Les Miles has been fired and he's won a national title, but not in this era. A lot of people are looking at Les Miles as a guy that's kind of stuck in his ways now and hasn't evolved. But is it blasphemous to think that maybe if this pattern continues where you get whooped by teams and you just compete for the Big Ten year in, year out, that you look for a new coach?
I don't think it's blasphemous. I think everything has to be on the table. But I think at the end of the season, you're going to see that Dantonio is going to get as much as he can out of this team. And I think you are right. This year probably is that transition year. You have Tyler O'Connor, a 5th-year senior, that he hasn't been a starter for a reason his entire 5 years that he's been here. And I texted my brother during the game on Saturday that, put in Messiah DeWeaver. He's the freshman quarterback that he was a highly recruited guy. Put him in, see what he can do. I want to see what else we have on this team. I kind of equate Tyler O'Connor right now to Andrew Maxwell. He was the guy who was going to come in and be Kirk Cousins, and Andrew Maxwell just could not get the job done. And we put Connor Cook in, and you saw what happened when we put Connor Cook in. I think you need to see what you have in your other quarterbacks. I think the mistake that you'd make, though, is if you put in Damian Terry, because Damian Terry is just another guy who's been in the system for a while, and he's going to give you exactly what you see out of Tyler O'Connor. I want to see what the young guys on this team can do. I loved Donnie Corley in the game against Notre Dame, and he made some fantastic catches in the game against Wisconsin. Put in your young guys. If this season already is going to be a transitional season, put in the guys and start building for next year, because Dantonio has built this team up, and let's just get the ball rolling again so that when we come in next year, you saw what the kid from Louisville, he was unpolished last year, but he was still very talented. And now this year, he has like 7 touchdowns a game. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm not saying that whoever we got on our team is going to be just as good, but you never know until you put him in the game.
Man, oh man, yeah. I like what Mark Dantonio's done. I like his philosophy. Did you read the report today from the Free Press? There was a report from Brian Manzullo, a guy that's contributed to Vito's baseball podcast, a very good web guy and a guy that provides a lot of content for the Free Press. And he took a little bit of flack in that he wrote a report that Mark Dantonio's name is being floated around as a guy early on the list as a guy that LSU might target. And so a lot of people got on him and were saying that, well, this is clickbait and this is ridiculous and things like that. But in his article, if you actually click on it and read it, he says that it's not likely that Dantonio is going to leave, but Mark Dantonio's name, and it's not out of the realm of possibility that Mark Dantonio's name is going to be bantered about for coaching jobs, because, he's coming off of a season where he got his team to the National College Football Playoff, the Final Four. So to put your head in the sand, to think that Mark Dantonio's name is not going to show up on lists, you should report it. I don't think it's clickbait, and I think that's his job, and all power to him. Everything that we do. I mean, if there was somebody out there that we could talk to get huge listenership, we'd go talk to him.
Then LSU should try and go after Mark Dantonio. I mean,
Well,
pretty much any of those SEC teams, and I get it, Vanderbilt, and there are some crap teams in the SEC, but LSU is an established program. They, like you said, they've won national championships. Nick Saban won a championship there. Les Miles won a championship there. They're one of those top SEC teams. That should be, Mark Dantonio should be on top of their list, because that's a guy you could bring in, and now he's done what he's done with 3- and 4-star guys,
Yep.
and now he's going to be in SEC country getting the best of the players in the South.
Well, a lot of people also mentioned that when you get outscored by Alabama 87-7 in your matchups, then you're going to have a problem. So, but with LSU's recruiting base and what you can do down there with SEC talent, Mark Dantonio might be a home run there at LSU, but I don't think he's going to want to leave Michigan State. He's got it good.
Yeah.
I don't think the expectation's that high yet. Like, I think just people like me would just think it. I don't think there's any pressure.
I mean, Dantonio, if he wants to, and Michigan fans may go nuts after I say this, but if he wants to, he can stay here as long as he wants, and he's going to be our Bo Schembechler.
Yeah.
That's essentially what he is. You can maybe even compare them a little bit more, because Bo never won a national championship. I think the jury's still out if Dantonio can get to that promised land, but if he never wins that national championship, then it's essentially the same thing.
Yes, sir. Now, before we get out of here, are you going to check into the debate that's going to take place between Trump and Hillary Clinton on Monday evening?
I think me and my wife are going to turn it on for a little bit. Being over the age of 18 and being a voting U.S. citizen, I'd like to know a little bit about who we're going to be voting in to run our country for the next 4 years. I mean, I think we kind of already know that it's a bad situation either way, but I think there's one clear option that's, I think, it's hard to not really get super political talking about this, but it's a bad situation all around.
Yeah, I'm going to tune in to see how, Donald Trump's going to do for 90 minutes one-on-one versus Hillary Clinton, who's kind of the professional, and you got Donald Trump, who's been okay at the debates for the Republican Party, but I want to see, is he able to match wits? Are they going to go back and forth at each other? How are they going to handle this? Because it's going to be 6 15-minute segments. So I'm going to tune in back and forth a little bit. I'm a little bit surprised, though, on a talking point. As we record this, it's 2-2. The Tigers are facing off versus Cleveland. The crowd at Comerica is sparse. There's a lot of Tribe fans, because if they win, then they can celebrate at Comerica Park. But when Crisp homered to make it a 2-0 game, a lot of reports about loud cheering at Comerica Park because there's an infiltration of Cleveland fans. So, it's a little bit of a sign of the times that maybe people believe after a series loss versus KC that the time's up. But JD Martinez homered. It's 2-2 right now. So as we're recording this, we're going to get out of here soon so we can watch the end of the game, Monday Night Football, and the debate. But it's a big week for the Tigers, a big, massive week. It's not going to be easy.
No.
7 games, 1.5 out as we're recording this. It's going to be tough, especially 4 in a row versus Cleveland.
They almost did exactly what I predicted. On Saturday, when they were trying to close out that game against the Royals, I was about to tweet saying I called it. They were gonna have one loss in this week, and that they'd have the wild card and then go on to lose it. But then obviously K-Rod blew that game and they lost on Sunday. The possibility is still there, but you're going up against the team that you struggled against all season. And then I think the Braves are coming in. They're kind of hot at the moment too. So it's, you got to hope pretty much to, I think you almost have to, maybe you can't lose more than 2 games in this next week. I think if you lose 3, then it's done. You'd have to have a lot of help from everybody else to just eke into the wild card. And even at that point, I think you're talking about a tiebreak scenario where you're trying to tiebreak to get into the wild card.
Yes, sir. Anything to speak of this weekend? I know you're going to watch Michigan State, Lions, Bears. Anything exciting you at all besides watching the Tigers and the rest of the scene going on in Detroit sports?
Oh, you got the Red Wings starting their preseason, which is a little exciting. You get to see what's going to happen. I think it might be a godsend that Henrik Zetterberg got hurt. So then we get to see a little bit more of the young kids and see what we actually got on this team. But other than that, we're celebrating my dad's birthday.
Very nice. Very good. Anything planned?
I think we're just going out to dinner.
Okay, very good. Thank you for your time. Get well quick. Got to get you back here next week, ready to analyze what happens. Could be the end of the Tiger season. It could be the end of the Caldwell era as well.
Yeah, if they lose to the Bears next week, he really should not make it back to Detroit on that plane.
But you know he will, because Martha Ford loves Jim Caldwell.
This is a different. I thought this was a different regime. I thought this was Martha Firestone Ford. This is fire and brimstone, man.
Let's make it happen. Well, let's see what happens. Let's keep positive, and let's see what happens. And definitely we'll be back here on the Motor City Sports Rant to break it all down. You know it.
Later.
Okay, nice, idiot. F you. Bye-bye.
Good day, sir. I said good day.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
Loser.